Welcome back to The Serial Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Anna Wood. On today's episode, I'm joined by Viviene Bish-Bedeau, the founder and director of Construction and Engineering Opportunities, also known as CEO. We discuss the diversity of the construction industry, the issues of classifying industries as either practical or academic, and winning the Inspirational Woman of the Industry award at the Hustle Awards 2025. Let's dig in. Today, how are you?
Hi, Anna. I am fine. I'm hot. I'm in Jamaica and I'm having a good time.
That sounds lovely compared to the UK weather where it's actually currently looking like it's going to rain today, even though it's summer.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not sad. I'm not sad about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we begin every podcast episode with the same icebreaker question, which is, what's your favorite breakfast cereal and why?
Okay. So I don't really have favorites of anything, I think. I'm not very good at favorites. I'm a seasonal person. And so the season at the moment, I think when I was coming out here, I decided to buy a box of Frosties. Not my regular cereal. I'll have it now and then. But I felt maybe it's already got the sugar coating. I don't have to think about how much sugar to add. It's also lovely when it's cold and in milk because it retains its crunch throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not just a breakfast cereal, because even without milk, if you want a bit of a munch, you could just grab some of it out of the box. So I think it's very flexible, a reflection of who I am.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love just snacking on dry cereal. I think it's such a good, crunchy thing.
Yeah.
So would you be able to introduce yourself and tell me a bit about your background and your journey?
Sure. So as I said, I'm Viviene Bish-Bedeau, and I am the founder and director of CEO. CEO stands for Construction and Engineering Opportunities. I really want my brand, though, to be known as CEO because the background of it is about no one giving you a status, you taking it.
Mm-hmm.
So where did my journey start? Well, initially there was nothing. I'm CEO, obviously, is construction engineering, but it comes from me becoming a plumbing and heating engineer over nearly 40 years ago now. And it wasn't something that was ever planned. Like many teenagers at the time, I was a more adult teenager at the time, but like many, you don't really know what you want to do in life. You've got all these ideas. I was sort of fixed on working. I didn't want to be a secretary, knew that. I didn't want the traditional roles that they wanted to give to women. I wanted something where I felt it was creative. I could use my mind and learn things. And I loved chemistry. And so I was going down the pharmaceutical role. And back in my days, there used to be polytechnics as well as universities. And I was thinking to apply to one of those in the same period that the job centre sent me a letter basically saying, if you do not sign off, you'll lose your benefits. And as they do, the government, they had a program at the time, an initiative called the Community Program. I joined that myself. There's 12 in total. I was the only female, all there for the same reason, didn't want to lose our benefits. My idea was, I'll do this. They'll run short of funds. It's a government within 6 months, and I'll get back onto my normal training course. However, I was right, they ran short of funds, so the program came to an end a lot quicker. However, I was already bitten by that idea of being practical. And I actually do not like DIY, didn't like DIY, but went to learning plumbing. Something about it, very logical thinking process. And I really enjoyed it. And I felt it unlocked a creative part of my brain that I didn't use. And so that's what introduced me to plumbing. And long story short, I studied that after my dad laughed his head off when I told him. My mum, she's in Jamaica at the time, saying, no, don't do that, Vivi. Stick to your course. She wanted me to stick on what they would say is the academic. I say that in quotations because I'm sort of against this terminologies of practical and academic. But I did one thing that I knew I always do. I followed my heart. And I studied plumbing, and there was a lot of study. And that's why I say academia is according subjective to view. I studied that, and then I went on to a BTEC in HUC, Building Services Engineering. Ended up working as a sole trader for approximately 20 years. I transitioned in the 17th year into teaching, and so I was doing a bit of both. burning a candle at both ends led to a car accident, which thankfully I was the only one involved. I fell asleep literally going from one job to another at the middle of the night. And so I decided, you know what, I just moved into teaching in FE. I'm going to follow that because it gave me the same enjoyment as being working on the tools. Because what it was, I could see what was happening. I could see, like, when you work on the tools, you put in a bathroom, that's your job. You see it. When you teach someone and you can see that they've learned and they've achieved, that gave me, you know, such a, oh, I can't think of the word, but it made me feel so good, you know. And so I thought, yeah, I could go along this road. And so I became a lecturer in the major FE colleges. I moved up to become a curriculum coordinator, advanced practitioner, then curriculum coordinator. When I moved on from that college, I became a senior curriculum manager at a major college for construction and engineering department. And during COVID, I left that last job with the idea I was going to come to Jamaica and spend time. COVID happened at the same time. No job. Ended up working for another local college doing their IQA. And then eventually I was headhunted by a company that wanted someone to manage their training centre. This was in Essex. I went there and became the operations director in the end. And yeah, it's after working with them, working for Trustee is a bit different, bit of a story there, but working for them, it sort of consolidated in my mind the young people that I wanted to work with, because these were young people that were underrepresented, excluded, youth justice, you know. And working in the colleges, turned many of them away, if I'm truthful, because they did not meet the criteria. And I think quite rightly turned them away because it wasn't the place for them to be. And you just know who's going to stay on a year's course from who can't. But I always I heard the term NEET, knew what it meant, not in education, employment or training. I always understood that I believed that the government took care of them. And it wasn't until I worked for a charity that I realised the government didn't fund and that they had to apply for funding. And I thought that was a tragedy, that the ones that need it the most is the ones that are least looked after by the government. And so that gave me a different passion towards, I've always loved teaching regardless of the age group, but it drew me into more wanting to support those young people, because I felt if we don't give them the second, third, and sometimes fourth chances that they will require, who else is going to help them? And since they throw them into construction, because I think it's just that easy, why not be one of the person that picks them up and help them to move up? So yeah, so that happened. I worked for this company for almost 2 years. As I said, working for trustees was a bit different. And I loved what I did, but not necessarily things went as smooth with the relationships with some. And some of my staff saw things and decided, why don't you do your own thing? And I never thought of it before then. I'm from Croydon, and I thought, you know what, something like this could work in Croydon. And what they didn't offer was plumbing and electrics, because no one thinks a young person can do that academically as well. They think they're not able. They'll give them all the other constructions, painting, carpentry, etc., but not that. And I thought there's a niche there and there's a gap to be filled in our market. So that's what I'm going to go for. And so that brought me around to coming up with CEO.
Yeah, great. And kind of on that topic, what is CEO and what is your mission?
So CEO has said, the name CEO is what I really want to stand out more than, you know, obviously it's construction engineering, but actually, you know, everyone knows CEO at the moment as Chief Executive Officer. And my accountant, for example, when I showed him the name, I was filling out the company house forms to register my company. He said to me, oh, CEO, it won't work. CEO, CIC, you know, it's not going to work because of the acronym and so forth. But I'm like, nope. I'm sticking with CEO. There is a reason. There is a brand on that. And I want it that, yes, everyone does know CEO at this point to stand for Chief Executive Officers, but actually there's going to be a day when it's like, oh, you don't mean that CEO, you mean CEO, Construction and Engineering Opportunities. It should be that way. So for me, that's a brand that I want to build. The mission is to actually, the CEO, it's a status that people have, and some have, very few have. And actually, I think it's a status that everyone should have if they've in their own rights. You are the CEO of your own life take that and run with it. And that's what I want my young people to know. Do not let people define you, because, as I said, things didn't go quite as well with the trustees. And, the job I went for, or the job they took me on for, they headhunted me, but they changed the role before I started. The job role was a CEO for both my predecessor and the interim in my space. But when they contacted me, it was changed to a manager role. And it was only because I negotiated after the probation period that I would like at least to go to director, more for my LinkedIn status. That was to show movement. I soon discovered actually I am not doing them less, and actually I did more because I broadened what we did. And I did ask, an email. I did put that to them when I was at the 6 months, and even getting the director was a bit of a tassel. It was I had to keep pushing to get that after the 6 months. The CEO was subliminally told to me when I first spoke to him on the phone by one of the trustees that it was a role that was self-appointed, and they don't know how that came about, and it was very recent. Unfortunately, after being there for a year or more, and then realizing, looking at some old minutes, that CEO role at the time they were speaking to me was being advertised on Indeed for a CEO. At that time, it wasn't only just recently. The lady had been in that position. She worked there, became a CEO, and had been there for over 8 years, and then the interim CEO. So it left me, what was the difference? And unfortunately, one of my missions, I suppose, in life, which it's not a mission, it's not really a mission for me, but I suppose it at that time became a mission, was that not to be defined and not to make my colour be the reason why I do not succeed. And whatever other people look at as your disadvantage, because it's other people looking and interpreting your disadvantage, do not take it on board. And so CEO, that was for me taken away because of my colour of my skin, which I think that was the first time actually I've grown up and I know about racism, but I've never really felt affected. And that did affect me because it devalued who I was, my qualifications, my achievements that I already had going into that job. It took for granted that I didn't know the truth about the role. And I therefore was at a disadvantage purely because of the colour of my skin. And for all of those reasons, I could have decided, okay, give up. But for me, I'm very defiant. And if you tell me I can't do something or get something, I will go for it. And so I thought, I'm not actually I'm going to have my own company, but I'm not going to be the CEO. I'm going to make the company CEO. So the company now is CEO, and it means that anyone who wants to come to CEO have access to becoming that person. So my mission is to empower young people to understand that you do not take a label. You do not take what so many young people, for example, says, I am dyslexic, I am autistic, I am ADHD. And I stop and say, you are not. You don't define yourself as I am. You have something, but it's nothing that can't stop you from reaching the goals that you decide on. And that's what I want when they come to CEO. It's because they're coming to somewhere that's saying you are already in that position. You're coming to a place that's going to build you up, to empower you, build your self-confidence, raise your low esteem, and building resilience. That's what CEO's mission is about, and helping younger generation, especially, to get into employment or to become their own entrepreneurs and show their worth in life, So that is basically, what CEO is doing. And though it does it through construction, it doesn't mean I expect them to do plumbing and electrics. What I'm doing is just giving them the skill set to know that whatever you want to do, you are able to do it.
Yeah, that is amazing. I think you've already discussed some of kind of the inspirations for why you started CEO, but why do you think this topic is so important to you?
As I said, being a Black female, I've never really, it's one of those things. I don't usually like to highlight, I think up to this point, I haven't really highlighted, I'm female, I'm in this industry. I'm Black, I'm in this industry. But actually, the reality, when I looked at it, I started in this industry approximately 40 years ago now. Therefore, women was not into construction generally, just women were not in construction as much. A Black female in construction, even less so. And as I said, just being a female in an industry that is male dominated, you could have said there were lots of challenges. I love challenges maybe. So I don't actually see a challenge. I see a reason to explore and to conquer. That's the way I see a challenge. You have something, you explore, you conquer, you move on. And so I think for me, as a topic, it's something that I want other people to look at it that way. We used to speak about fear. Do I get fearful? Absolutely. Running a business can have a fearful effect, but I refuse to live in it or to stay in it. And I think people need to understand that that's the whole idea. When I'm teaching, I'm installing that in my teaching. There is nothing you cannot do or overcome, because fear, as it says, is fake evidence appearing real. And at the end of the day, that's as long as you remember that, you will feel fear. And so a young person coming to me, they will be fearful, especially when they've not succeeded in school. They've been excluded, or they're taken out of class, they're at risk, whatever. There is a fear, and they'll put a bravado on, but there is that hidden fear. And it's like, be vulnerable. Let your fear come out. You're in the right space. You can, this is a place where you do not fail. You just meet your obstacles and you turn your obstacles into stepping stones. And by doing that, every fear that you overcome by turning it into a stepping stone will take you higher. My CEO sign, if you look at my design, my son designed it for me. And I know someone asked me about branding the other day, and just like not wanting to change a CEO, when my accountant, I was adamant, no, CEO is staying as it is. Don't care what anyone thinks. I have a mentor who recently, brilliant, thank you to Waits. I have some brilliant mentors. And he was asking about branding. And I said, I don't mind changing a few things, but it's quite personal to me. And that's because my son designed it, not because it was my son, but he listened to what I was saying when designing it. And what I was saying to him was, I want young people to understand that no matter where they come from, on a socioeconomic climb, is wherever they're coming from, they can move upwards, they can go up. And so the sign, my CE shows, like a tail end, but then it shows an arrow going up, and it's to take you wherever you want to go. If you have that mindset to do well, that mindset alone won't do it. You do need education, you do need the support, but with the right mindset, you can achieve literally anything that you want to do. And so, yeah, I think that's my inspiration behind this, and how I, want young people to feel that the things that if I've overcome my own little challenges in life and conquered, I'm willing to support and help anyone else. And yeah, for a topic for my inspiration, my own journey through to come to become a CEO, or the title of CEO. As I said, I don't think I had a rough life or anything like that, but facing racism in that way, that was the first time I actually felt, you know what, I'm kicking back against it now. I'm not allowing it, but I'm doing it in my way. Not, that's it really.
Yeah, great. So I think you've already discussed how you worked in kind of places similar and then decided to start your own business. What do you think makes CEOs stand out from those other organizations?
Dare I say I do? It might sound a bit vain, and I really don't mean it that way. However, without me, there would be no CEO. So I have to say I am my brand. I am the person that's propelling it forward, because no one else had this vision. So without that vision, the vision of doing plumbing, electrics. When I say no one else, everyone that there's different construction, but no one's for taking young people, at 14 and teaching them plumbing and electrics, because as far as they're concerned, academically, they might not be there. They're too young. I reduced that age group now to 6 to 9 year olds. I run a mini constructioneer club that's funded by children in need. And so for me, my brain works at 100 miles an hour, I think, sometimes. One of my directors, she's more, very much, she's the one that keeps me grounded, I would say. She's very down to earth, very compliant, and you need that in a business. I'm get an idea a minute, and I need to be controlled at times. But it's those ideas that make it's the idea that why can't a 6-year-old, at first I was thinking mini construction is 10 to 16. I was asked to do an event, a STEAM event, which is STEM with A, science, technology, engineering, art and maths. I was asked to do an event, and though I felt the audience there wasn't my audience, I was more than happy to be there for the day. They were all under 12. I thought they'd be too young to join in with, to be doing anything as CEO. And quite a few of them were around the 6 to 9 year age group. And actually watching these young people manage the tools and be excited about changing a tap washer and connecting wires and seeing the light come on in that. And I thought, okay, there we go. We've got to do something for these. And so Mini Constructioneer Club was born out of that. And it's that having that, being able to pivot at the right time and having that excitement to want to follow through on different avenues and projects, seeing a need when there is a need and following it through to create a project that will help others. And I think so if I wasn't the person I was, if I was someone that's quite relaxed or wait for someone else to do it, CEO wouldn't be there. So I think, yes, that's why I say I am the person, I am the passion behind it. And that's not to say, however, I just mentioned my colleague and director, Aniko. She is brilliant. She's the one that nominated you. Thank you very much, Aniko. And she's, we're a small team. I have 2 directors. But Aniko's one of those. She's right there. She's been there all the time. She left the same place we worked at to come and support me. And so without the right team behind you, there was, again, no CEO. And Aniko's been that person. She has stuck with me through thick and thin. Whether money's coming in or not, she's doing the work. She moved abroad and she works from abroad still. So yes, I would say if I wasn't there, but I also acknowledge that without the right support and without the right team behind you, there is no company. And so CEO, if you see CEO, you might see me, but behind me there is the biggest support. And those that believe in me, that's not a big team, but in belief, there is that support, and that's what propels me forward.
It's so important to have that network around you, no matter the size, because someone might have 100 people behind them, but if you have one person who really truly believes in what you do and supports you in it, that truly is the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So CEO works with refugees, young people and ex-offenders. How do you design inclusive training that caters to such a diverse group?
I think the word is diversity. We are diverse in construction as it is. If you want a industry, sorry, it's very hot now. If you want an industry that is diverse, construction couldn't be more diverse. And I literally mean diverse. You go onto the building site, you will see every nation at some point on a building site. We spoke about youth offenders, where do they usually send people when they're not, in life, things have gone wrong? At the colleges, the ultimate place where they think, they're not academic enough, throw them down to construction. So they end up naturally going to construction. So on the site, you'll see that a lot of people, not a lot, but I'd say there's a good proportion of people have maybe had past lives where, they got involved with criminal justice and the route out was through construction. So, it's something to champion construction for being at least one of those industries that will take on people who have been in a criminal justice system. Okay. And with the asylum seekers, again, well, I think we know from Brexit, for example, we do not have many in the UK now that are educated in construction. So those jobs such as, because everyone puts construction just down to the practical side. Well, we are already failing because by 2030, we will not have the right amount of tradespeople in plumbing, electric and all those engineering because we're not training them up. Also, we definitely haven't already got those people, or many of them, should I say, because they are there, to not want to stereotype, but we don't have enough management roles, quantity surveyors, the designers, architects, everything, even the down to document controllers. There are so many diverse roles, even occupational therapy in construction. People speak of construction as just being a practical. And so young people are educated onto the roles that they can go into. If we get that education right, the estimators and all of those roles, it is one of the most diverse industry. I mean, I started as a plumber. I became a lecturer. I then became an advanced practitioner. I I done my HNC in building service engineering, so I can, do the design side. If I so wanted to, I could have gone down that route. And now I run my own business. Nothing against accountants, but just an example, if someone studied accountancy, they could maybe, become a lecturer, etc. But they're limited in how many things that they can
Mhm.
do. There might be different branches of accountancy, but to branch out in the same way, construction offers so much that you can branch out into. And so for all of those diverse groups, that is a brilliant thing that they do not have to come with a particular education already. And that's how I make
Mhm.
it diverse. I'm starting from entry level. We're not starting at, you have to be in level 2 or level 1 even, entry level, because I'm starting with someone as if you're a newborn baby and you're learning for the first time. And I'm going to nurture and train you in that way and give you the respect and the time, prioritize you for who you are, not for you being in a community of people, but as an individual person. So yes, we're a diverse group, but you are still an individual when we come to CEO. And so if you come as an asylum seeker and your language is Farsi, I have learnt Farsi. So
Mhm.
I can say Kuban Chatori to you, meaning good day, how are you? Because I'm learning from you. While I teach, I learn from you. And so when people are comfortable that you're willing to learn from them as well, because no matter how much I can teach you, I can still learn from you. And that's with my young people. I don't know half the things that's put on like an emoji or, text talk, etc.
Mhm.
But I can say, what's that mean? And they're teaching me that small thing. But I, the fact that I'm willing to learn something from them makes them even more willing to learn from me. And so
Mhm.
it's having that respect for people, showing people that, yes, my job here is to teach you, or my job, because I'm everybody, is to be a manager and to run this department, to discipline you, to do this and that. But it's through love that I do it all and through respect of you. And that's where young people speak about, I want respect. And I say, yeah, but what is respect? We say, if you give, you gain. And I think it's learn, then be not hearing that word, but having living it. And that's what through CEO, actually, they live and see that we respect them. We will evoke discipline, and you need discipline in construction. It's a very disciplined industry to be in. And whether you're an asylum seeker, a youth offender, an ex-offender, or a young person who's not done well at school, actually, you're individual, you're a human being. And that's who I see. I don't see you as someone that doesn't know English well. My job
Mhm.
is just to help you along the way. Our asylum seekers, when they come to us, I use Scrabble. We use that as a tool of learning English and speaking about the words. And I use the tools because they're there to learn about the tools. So they enjoy that. And when they turn around and say, one of my asylum seekers said, Viv, my English has improved so much since I've been here because he's doing something he enjoys. And that's what it is. Find out what someone loves and enjoy. And you'll be surprised how, they'll get wings and fly with that.
Mhm.
Uh, I have 5 grown men, 6 of them actually at one time. They they are asylum seekers, and I was teaching them the vowels. And I don't know if you know this song, but it's AEIOU. And by the end of it, they're walking into the workshop with their hard boots on. They're going and singing AEIOU. And it goes on. But they remembered it. And every time I say the vowels, all of a sudden this choir breaks out now. It's a
Mhm.
running joke. But the thing is, they remembered it. And so it's making the diversity that I bring is to make learning fun,
Mhm.
and as I grow, that is the harder part. I know, as you grow, you've got to have someone that's going to do that for you, continue it. But that's what I say to anyone that comes with me, that learning should be fun. And once it's fun, you will learn. Yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I think you also mentioned about how you'd never fully realized about that you would be the only woman, and then it kind of dawned on you about that. So I think many view trades as a very male dominated space. How do you kind of navigate and challenge that dynamic?
I think from a quite an early stage when I decided to go into plumbing, one of the things that came to mind is that I'm in a very male-dominated space. However, men have also been in that space themselves at one time. In industry, nursing. Nursing would have been a very female-dominated space. And if, you could imagine men, and I've seen documentaries when men first entered into nursing, but being that man going into that very female area, how isolated it could feel at times. See a group of women maybe feel that even when they're not speaking about you, they may be speaking about you, trying to integrate yourself into it. So from my perspective, I could say, oh, well, this is how hard it is to be a female in this industry, etc. But I think I went into it that mindset that men used to be underrepresented in nursing. Now we look around, male nurses are the common factor. It's took years for that to happen. It didn't happen overnight, and it's still evolving. And I see that for our industry in construction. And I say our industry because it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. If you are a construction worker or working anywhere in that industry, it is your industry. And I think that's the thing. Take onus of it first. Rather than say I'm a female in the male industry, just say my industry is construction. Stop labeling it as a male or female industry because that's what slows us down. And I know that when I started, yes, there were many women who I used to be part of a organization I called Women in Manual Trades. I actually chaired it for one of the years. And it was brilliant because it was women coming together, helped each other out. And that's good. And that's community. And I think you always need that. But it wasn't about fighting to have a woman in the industry as much as I am just a person doing a job that I would like to do. And that's it. Find what you want to do and don't let no one dissuade you from doing it. And I've never let anyone, if anyone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to go and do it because I'm very much the opposite. So when my dad laughed, when my mum was like, no, don't do it. Actually, I wasn't 100% sure. I loved chemistry. But actually I found, and that's where I said this academia thing where it's practical, not academic. My chemistry, which is very academic, as they would put it, helped me so much when I was doing my plumbing because the theory behind it, understanding copper as a material, all metals and reaction with oxygen and that. There is so much to it. And the study that goes into this, there is, all of that. And, our male counterparts go through that as well, etc. And it's just not, I think my thing is so much not about a woman, being a woman in industry. It's about our industry full stop being undermined, that you don't have any brains. And because I'm a woman, though, I'm seen differently. Meaning, my male counterpart, I've gone through the same thing, but they're just a plumber. I turn up as a plumber. Wow, you're a plumber. Oh, I can't believe it. And it's like, why is there that difference? So I would always empower women to do what they want and go into the industry, regardless of what anyone says. But I would also say, stop to other people, stop undermining what we do, because actually, if you have no flushing toilet, you will have a poor hygiene. If you have no running tap, poor hygiene, our state of our NHS would not be where it is if you would look at a third world who has brilliant doctors, but poor hygiene, you can see disease still is there. So a plumber is just as important as a doctor. The difference is one works on the body, we work on your plumbing systems in the homes or in the commercial settings. And without us and all the other trades, we would not have shelter. We would not have as many. As a woman, I would say use that to empower you to come into the industry and show what you can do. And know that when a seed is planted, it's planted in the dark. It takes many years for that seed to grow. And if it's a tree, it's going to take quite a few years for that tree to grow to its full glory. And even maybe a few years for it for the fruit to be seen, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. And I believe, yes, it has been very slow for women in the industry. 40 years on, I'm still few amongst the gas engineers, but there are definitely more than when I started. And there's definitely women plumbing firms, Pink Lady, and, I don't know them personally, but I know that I believe it's a woman that took over Pimlico. So it's happening. And so what I would say is, let's not label it no more as a male-dominated industry. Just label it as it is. It's a construction industry, and we work in it.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, I guess kind of talk about
being a woman in the industry. You won the Inspirational Woman of the Industry Award at the Hustle Awards this year. So congratulations on that. What does that mean for you, both personally and professionally?
Wow. The wow would be, is like, okay, I think I was nominated and shortlisted in 2 categories last year. Didn't win anything, but actually just being shortlisted is still being recognized. That's still quite important. So yeah, but then to go one step further now, and I think on the evening, I wasn't actually thinking of coming because I was flying out to Jamaica the next day. It was going to be too much, but in the end, we did go. And when in the category, I suppose I didn't read my emails too well because I thought I wasn't going to make it. And I thought, well, if I win, it'd be lovely. And someone would, be there to hold it for me, keep the award till I get back. But I'm really happy I did come because though I didn't win one of the awards I was up for, Founder of the Year, and that was the only award I thought I was up for, my husband was flicking through when we sat down and looked at the program and he said, Viv, you're in this one as well. And I looked and I thought, oh, I didn't even realize I was in that. So I'm like, oh, I'm in two. And so when I didn't win the first one, I thought, oh, there's still a chance. hearing, hearing CE, I think that was it, that moment that I said CEO being recognized. I wanted CEO to be recognized. Hearing CE being called in the way that I wanted to be called, that was a moment. It wasn't me, it was CEO, it was a company, it was that brand. That was bringing it to life. It's got recognition. It's CEOs being recognized for something else other than the name that everyone knows it. So yeah, that recognition. Oh, that was it's I don't know, it's undescribable to say to win something that it's sort of gives me reason to keep pushing forward even more. It's like it wasn't that I was giving up or anything, but now it just spurs you to say, you're being appreciated, you're being recognized, what you're doing is worth it because it's the impact. And yeah, so it's having an impact enough for people to notice it. And, I write impact reports for my funders. And actually, sometime again, it's not until you're writing that report that you realize what you've done. But again, you still don't have time to really soak it in because you've got to move on to something else. So, that's at the startup event on the Hustles Award. I think it's really brilliant because it does give that time for reflection to say, wow, I'm relatively young still in my business. It's my 3rd year I just completed. I'm just moved into my 4th year. And so for me, it's a recognition still in my 3rd year to have such a prestigious award, to win something like that. Yes, it means a lot. And I think it does add to recognition of who you are. Hopefully people will start to say, CEO, so that's the person. Yeah, we want to deal with that person. That's what you have as startup given us that. So I thank you very much because it is, another step in my obstacle to overcome. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear from a lot of founders that when they win, because obviously I interview all the winners, they're like, it gives us a chance to kind of sit and reflect because as a founder, oftentimes you're kind of looking forward, you're thinking, oh, what's next? And you don't have that time to personally reflect on everything that you've achieved. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I've won this thing. Wow, I have done a lot, haven't I?
Yeah. It's you sort of like 3 years has gone past relatively quickly, I'd say. And I've pivoted a few times within the business, not away from it, but within, adding different elements and, okay, that's not working. Let's go for this. I need funding. So I've got to, which community do I need to serve? And so Annie Co would say to me, my other director, she says to me, Viv, but we were meant to be doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but the community needs that now. And so I'm always on my toe trying to think of what to do. And it becomes very tiring. And there are times where I put my head down and you're like, what funding or how am I, can't pay yourself or, I go my 1st year, didn't pay myself, but I wanted to make sure everyone else was sorted out. And then I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the rent or I've got to take it from a personal, all of these things. But it gets to, and I'm still on that journey at the moment sometimes, but it makes it worth it to say, just people recognize it, to be, you're in with your peers, evening with your peers who are in the same position. Many of them are worthy of the same recognition. And, as my thing, sorry, I forgot the lady's name that spoke on the evening, but, it was very clear that everyone is quite deserving. It's, but there has to be a winner. And so last year I was not that winner. This year I'm taking the full glory of being that winner. I'm like taking it on board and saying, yeah, because if I've stood out that much, it empowers me. I want to empower others. So thank you for empowering me through them all.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, kind of moving on to discuss your journey a bit more. You've already mentioned how you don't really see challenges as challenges. But what do you think some of the biggest challenges, not challenges, have been on your journey so far, and how have you managed to overcome them?
I think because the challenges, when I say I don't see them, they're ongoing. So I could say, as of today, my challenge is I'm in Jamaica. My leaseholder has just confirmed that 5th of September, my license is expired. They've decided they're definitely not going to continue. So now I've got this challenge for the fourth year in a row. I've moved three years in a row. My fourth year
Mhm.
is starting with me having to move again. So that's a challenge of finding a space, and a space now that needs to be big enough and can take everything on. There's a challenge of resourcing staff. That's a hard one because the right person can make or break my business.
Mhm.
And I'm in a growth mode at the moment. And so, as I said, I've pretty much been the person that's central to everything. And letting go, delegating can be really hard, because when it comes to delegating, you've got to allow other people to add their input and do things their way and still get the job done that you want, rather than trying to dictate it all. I think I'm learning more to do that. And I think I've learned, but it's still hard to find the right staff, find the right people. I had volunteers, and I've had a brilliant volunteer, but she's moving on. So now the concern is I need to, one, replace that, but I also need to take on people. Do I go PAYE? Can I afford to go PAYE? Do I stay with contractors? Those are the sort of things that I'm
Mhm.
having to consider. And then there's partnerships. I said, I find that I am in my growth mode now. So I want to develop the business. I want to serve more community, but I need to have income. I need more revenue. I need to partner and deliver like CPDs to. We've already started that with a firm, which has really went well, and we're looking at developing that more, but looking for partners to do more work with, and so that hopefully increase the revenue that's coming in, give us more exposure. I mean, one of the things I've always wanted to do, even before CEO came about, I always spoke about doing a CEO construction. Well, actually, sorry, before CEO. So also, it was always about doing a construction academy, and the construction academy was not going to be just for those young people that were excluded, at risk, or, vulnerable. It should be for any young person, because we are disadvantaging one part of society, which are young people, because they're doing well in their education, don't get the opportunity to try out plumbing and electrical until they're post 16. Whereas if you're not doing well according to the system, then you are taken out. And so that's when, we have young people from 13 coming to us, through the school system, who are getting actually some privilege of trying out something that they would not get in school. So actually there's quite a disproportion between what we say is diversity in school and what really is diversity, because they only want to keep the academics and
Mhm.
maintain them in the curriculum, rather than broadening the curriculum and bringing in what we do. So I would love, the challenge is breaking into schools to bring what we do into the curriculum. That is a challenge, if there is for anyone, to change the curriculum from what it is and make it more truly diverse, not just use the terminology, we are diverse, we're inclusive. We use these as throwaway comments, I think, when it comes to education, because it's on paper and it looks good. It looks good for Ofsted and everything like that. But actually, how diverse is an education system that you have to fail, according to them, before you're given the opportunity to go and do something that actually, as you've been able to do it in school, stay in school, not be called practical. You're not being put under your practical or academic, because saying that to a young person actually damages them. And teachers say all the time, without thinking of that, do you say that to a young person, you're actually comparing them to their peers who will be staying in that class. So you're saying to them, you're not as clever as your young people that are staying in. We're going to take you out, and now we're going to put you into a place such as CEO, which dumbens down CEO, because then we're not seen to be the academics accordingly to them. And that is a challenge, to let people say no. Academia is very subjective to the view. If you do trigonometry in a classroom on a piece of paper, you are academic. If I draw on a board for my young people, I always ask them, how's your maths and English? And many of them will, if I even say trigonometry, don't know what it is, because, they've been shut down so many times. They're frightened to even say if they know something that is correct in their mind. But I draw on a piece of paper, a wall, a ground, and I put a ladder against it. And then I ask them, do you know that angle in the corner? Most of them will know it's 90 degrees or a right angle. They're frightened to say it because when they say something wrong, usually they feel shut down or embarrassed. I give them that space and I let them know it's fine if you get it wrong. And they usually come out and say it. I then let them know the other angle that I need them to remember is 75 degrees. I put an X at the top. We work through this. I ask them how many angles in a triangle. They go through it. They work it. They'll tell me 180. They actually go through and work it out. There's 3 angles. They worked out X, which is algebra. And then I also say that ladder, if you don't know the angle, we usually say 1 out, 4 up. It's a ratio. What's a ratio? We go through it and then I say, so if I say 2 out, they say 8 up, 3 out, 12. They understand it. In 20 minutes, I can do that with a young person usually. And they get it. Yet in schools, they would have been called unacademic or just practical. And they'll still be known as not academic, even though they could do that outside of the classroom, just because it's outside of the classroom. So our challenge is to change how education teaches young people. We talk about kinesthetic and all of that, but do we really look at the programs that we give? Because they could use my centre and other centres similar to mine's. They don't have the facilities, but they could, instead of taking a young person fully out, just like a 6-year-old, you go and do a subject with us and then go back into your normal class and stay with your peers where they feel valued and your peers do not look down on you, because that's the other disadvantage of taking them out. The peers also judge you incorrectly, maybe. A person that maybe doesn't do well in school can fly outside and you find that are very academic. It's just that they weren't unlocked. And so I think for me, that's a challenge for us as CEO to break that barrier down and go into schools and let them know, look, how you speak to our young people, make a change in their lives. And then my practical resources, etc. So I say to anyone listening, if you've got a place to lease, that's 3,000 and more square feet, I'm here. If you've got anyone needing a job, I'm here, who wants to work with young people and would all like to manage the centre. I'm looking in that direction right now. And yeah, just if you want to volunteer, CEO, we little advertisement there, but yeah, please do tap me up, because, if you think this is an area, that you like a challenge, if you're someone that likes a challenge, CEO is a place to come, because yes, there will be challenges, but we change our challenges into stepping stones.
Amazing. And kind of on the flip side of that question, what do you think have been some of the biggest highlights of the CEO journey?
Oh, of course, winning an award. That's got to be the highlight right now. The top highlights is, the day before I flew out to Jamaica, I won an award and I'm on cloud 9 with that. So yes, absolutely. Because as I said, it is a recognition of what CEO is about, what we do. And it's inspired me to keep moving. My aspirations are just keep on multiplying, and I could think of 1,000 things to do. So yeah, that's sort of for this end, and it was at the end of my year. So it's, starting a new year. It's the end of one year, starting a new year. So it was a beautiful way to start. So that was definitely a highlight, to say I started my year by winning an award for what we've done in the past so far and what we're still doing. Apart from that, highlights for me come quite often, because that highlight on an everyday for me is a positive feedback from a client, a student, even like children in need sent me an email the other day. I did my impact report and they were very happy. They looked and said, these were the things that we loved about your report, the case studies, etc. Having that recognized again, by a funder, and knowing that they're happy that their money's being spent in the way expected and beyond, highlighting to me that we recognize you've had a lot of staff challenges, but the work you've done, you still continued going through. So having those recognitions, those are real highlights, because as I said, you need something when you're tired to keep you pepped up.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the highlights. So feedback, really positive feedback helps. Highlights would be just watching someone learn and get that certification. That's a highlight in my day or for that year. That's a highlight because, we've done something. We helped someone along the way. We've helped their journey. That's a highlight, seeing someone else's journey complete through the work we've done with them. One of my young men, his name's Dakari, and he's been one of my case studies. He came to me, he went to Standard FE College, but unfortunately, he theoretically, and again, this academic thing, he was someone that could pass exams, no doubt, very good academically in that sense. However, when it came to the tools, he had very little coaching. It was I've worked in the colleges, and not all colleges, so please, I'm not putting all colleges down, but I've worked with enough lecturers where they just want to get you through. It's a tick box exercise. But his tick box didn't include teaching him properly. He was passing something that he actually hadn't passed and was not ready for industry. When he came with me, I basically prepared him by supporting him in the workshop, and then I decided to take him out. And when I don't plumb them or as a job really, I don't have the time, but someone asked me to do a job for them, and they were CIC as well. So I said, okay. It was a hairdresser they teach hairdressing, and they needed a sink and some other works done. So I decided to take him along. I looked at the job, then I sent him out to look at it for himself because I wanted to train him in being self-employed as well. I taught him how to quote and invoice, and I went with him to the job, stayed with him at the job, and I only went in when he needed my help. So when his dad rings at 11 o'clock at night, wondering where his son is, I explained to his dad, you only learn by doing. And if I have to sit here and watch, I'm going to help him only when needed. This young man knows now. He moved on. He became self-employed pretty much through my support. And then now he works for plumbers in Kensington, and he's now doing his apprenticeship. His journey has been over the last few years, and he's still keeping in touch, and he drops me a line. And that's a highlight, that is someone that's been with me and still contacts me and lets me know how he's going on. And every time he contacts me, it's a highlight to say, Viv, that's what you've done and that's what you're doing with others. Those, so there are highlights that come throughout, not even years, it's the months and the days, just seeing a child who turns around to me the other day, wasn't doing maths or English. The council couldn't get them to do anything. And the council comes to me, my local councillor, and says, he's never engaged with anyone. And he's engaged, loves coming to our courses. And then they said, can you do English and maths? I'm like, I don't really do that. That's not my forte, but I'm sure I could do it at the level that he's at. And so now I do English and maths, and a social worker was saying now, he brought home his maths book and she didn't ask to see nothing. He's showing off and saying, look what I done. And he says to me the other day, when multiplied decimals and doing long multiplication, he was struggling a bit, but when he got it, he said, Viv, I done it. I never learned this at school. Thank you. You're really good. And having a young person at 16 tell you that, that's like, there's no money that can replace those sort of things, and those are my highlights. So I get those little highlights throughout, and that's what spurs me.
Amazing. So what would you say is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned as a founder?
Follow your heart. I wouldn't be in the position I am today if I relied on doing what others suggested. Now, it's not to say don't take advice, always take good advice. But especially as we spoke about earlier, being a female in a construction industry. So my parents, for example, would have had me do everything else. I spoke to many people before making my final decision to leave the chemistry and go into the plumbing studies. And I would say 90% of them said, oh no, do the more female thing maybe. But I followed my heart. I thought, you know what, I could always go back to the chemistry. And that was my intention. But the more I did the plumbing, the more I wanted. Then I started on my H&C, and I just did what I wanted to do, what was where my passion was. And I've always been that person to maybe go for what my passion is. I'm not easily deterred. You know, as I said, it is so important to listen to advice, and I will take on advice, I do believe, but not at the detriment of my following what I believe is true to myself. I have to be authentic and real. And so, yeah, I would say for anyone who's thinking of going into such a role as entrepreneurship, you definitely do it because you want to, because it's something you're passionate. Don't take up on something that you think is going to, like, for example, make you money
Hmm.
for the sake of it, because it's going to be like doing a job, your standard day-to-day job where you're working for someone. And the reason is you need to pay your bills, etc., which, yes, we all do that. And I've done it many a times. And usually I start a job and I'm really passionate about it. But then after a while, that job becomes mundane because I hit a limit where they don't want me to do more, or they don't want to change because it's the way they want to run their business. And that's fair enough. But I then don't have much to say. If you know that you're someone that loves to do things your way, in the sense that it can help you to grow, then entrepreneurship is maybe the best way to go.
Hmm.
Be prepared, as we've mentioned the word challenge, but as I say, let those challenges be stepping stones that for you rather than obstacles. Turn them into your stepping stones. Yeah, I think, yeah. So the lesson is definitely follow your heart, take advice, but only advice that you are aligned with. Don't do something because someone says, and because you might think, oh, but they're doing really well, so take their advice. And they might be doing well, but that's worked for them. Doesn't mean it's
Hmm.
going to work for you. So you've always got to search yourself and make sure, where do I want to go? Where do I see myself in the next 5 years? Is this what I would want to do? Would I want to do this in 10 years? Can I grow in this? And if you answer those questions, and yes, I do, I could see me growing, I could see me establishing something, and I can see that it's something I would want to do even if I wasn't bringing in the most money, because it's going to keep me mentally, physically, well-being, my well-being in a good place. If those are the things that it can do for you, then yes, that's what you need to be considering. If you think, however, because it's not for everybody, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. If you're someone that loves to know where your next paycheck's coming from, who actually you're not someone that's maybe creative in your thinking, and you don't have to be creative because there's different ways you can be an entrepreneur. You could be very data driven and you still be a brilliant analyst or something. But if it's something that you find that you're not really someone that wants to lead because you need to be a leader and you're not that person, it might not be for you. So again, don't take a route that's going to step out and do something that could destroy everything that you've already built up.
Hmm.
When you step into it and make sure you're 100% in for it, because it is going to take, I mean, I'm in Jamaica at the moment and I'm still working, and I call it my working holiday because I'm still having to log in. I'm still having to answer emails. I'm still checking in on things and having to run things because business doesn't stop. When you're an
Hmm.
entrepreneur, you are 24/7. You can't stop. You are now responsible for your income and the income of others. And so you've got to be 100% into it. So consider all of these things. Are you prepared for that? If you are, yes, go for it. If anything such as, well, when I'm on holiday, I want to be on holiday. Everyone over here keeps saying to me, my sister said to me yesterday, but you're meant to be on holiday. But my mind is, I've got to come back to a business. I can't afford not to check in. I can afford to relax, but I can't afford to stop. And that's how you've
Hmm.
got to think. Yeah.
Great. And so, what do you think the future holds for CEO and yourself? Do you have any big plans coming up that you can discuss?
Big plans. Well, I'd say growth. I'm in my growth mode, as I said. So my future will be to make CEO more corporate in some ways, in regards to taking on partnerships, hopefully moving forward with bigger partnerships. Because by doing that, by growing in a corporate way and working with big corporates and doing their CPD, for example, the trainings, etc., that will bring in a revenue that will help me to work with needs where there is little funding. So I need to now, I'm working on, as we speak, I'm talking to companies, I'm looking at their CSR, ESGs, to see how they align with my own ones. Are their social values the same as mine? Environmentally, I'm a plumber. Low carbon is an area I really want to go into. So I want to update my CPD to make sure I'm on top of it. So not only can I deliver it, but I can work with partners, because that's the way we're going with our, with our economy, with our environment. So we've got to be looking at those things. So I want to stay current. So my idea is to stay current, up to date, so that what I deliver will help those generations that's coming up. And even when I say generations, I like to think it's not just the younger generations, because we've got a generation of people that are upskilling, who are wanting a change, who are pivoting in their jobs. So when I say generations, it's a generation of change that I'm speaking about now. It's a generation of people deciding, you know what, I do not have to stick to that same job. So mine is my movement is to definitely, as a woman, empower more women to come into this industry, to reach out. I've never ran an all-female program. I'm not against it by any means. I've never, as a personally, wanted to go down that route. When I was training, I wanted to be mixed with the men. It just ended up, I did go down that route because that was my only channel in. And actually, it worked out really well for me. So there was no problem. But yeah, if women are feeling uncomfortable about going into the industry, I want to make them comfortable. So if it means running an all female, but helping them through, that's what I want to do. So to, as we said, there are less women, and to encourage women to go into the industry, grow the programs basically that I do, so that I can serve more in my community and help them to integrate where they're asylum seekers flawlessly, from becoming, the asylum seeker. When they become a refugee, if they have no income, no jobs, it's hard. So if I can reach them as asylum seekers, so that when they do get their stay, they can go straight into work because they've been educated already. Those are where I am now. I think it's to grow that even more and to empower as many people as I can. Yeah, I think that's where I'm on growth mode. Partnerships, tap me out. So yeah.
Great. And kind of to round off the podcast episode, is there anything that you wanted to add or plug at the end of the show?
I think I've been plugging a bit, but there was something actually when I said following your heart. One of the things that I think makes me who I am, and authentically me, is my faith. And that as I say, taking advice is important. My faith and my family are the two driving forces behind who I am today, I would say, and what I do. And especially when I say my family, my own family that I've created with my husband and my children, my immediate family in that sense. So my overall family, yes. But my immediate family, because they're the ones that live with me and put up with all the mess of when I'm upset and crying and everything and all those things and struggling feels like a struggle. They're the ones that no matter what, don't give up on me. And above that, there is my faith, my community as a Christian, I think my ethos is that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so with that in mind, that has driven me to be the person I am and overcome. And so, yes, I do have down times like anyone else. I think what helps me get through them is my faith, because when I pray, it strengthens me. And I say to people, you have something to hold on to. Always have something. My other is my family. They're my backbone. My children, they support what I do. They're grown men. They've sort of gone into industry similar, not the same, but they've gone along that way. And it shows me that actually I do impact people, because I've impacted my own children. So I know the impact that it can have when you have young people in your life. So I would just say to anyone, just make sure that you've something that grounds you. And those people that, my family will advise me. As I said, I don't always take advice and I don't always take their advice, but the fact that they're there to support and give me advice, and I do take some good advice from them, it's, propelling me. And I would say, firstly, while I could publicly say thank you to all of you, thank you to my faith community, thank you to my family, and thank you to the team, especially my CEO team, whether you're still with me or been with me in the past, who helped me. I say thank you to each and every one of you. What am I going to plug? Let's plug my programs. So CEO, Construction and Engineer Opportunities, we offer a program regardless of age. We start at years from age 6 and we go to 60 plus because there is no retirement age on learning. So if you are a 6 to 9, please feel free to come to our constructioneer clubs. Constructioneer clubs must be attended with parents. We encourage parents to put away the phones and get involved and learn with you young people and support them. It's health and safety reason as well. However, it's about spending an hour and 15 minutes with your child where it's just you and them doing something and creating bonds that unfortunately a lot of that is lost because families live busy lives. So 6 to 9-year-olds are welcome at our Constructioneer Club. We also do Constructioneers for our 10 to 16-year-olds. Parents, you can drop them off. They're learning to be independent. We help them to become independent and to learn the different things about the trades and prepare them to think about their life going forward and introduce them to trades in a positive way so they can start seeing that everything has academia to it attached, but they can enjoy the practicalities of it as well. If you are an asylum seeker or a refugee, we do run those programs. And thankfully, we were funded by the council, hoping to be funded again, but we do have some lottery funding that will keep us going for the next few months. So please, if you're an asylum seeker wanting to come into a trade, you're more than welcome. And our other programs include schools. If you're a school looking for a place for a young person who just needs a variety, needs something different to engage them. If they're disengaged from the normal curriculum and you want to re-engage them, we help not only to engage them, but to encourage them to get up to level with their schoolwork if they're still with you. We encourage them to come to us, but to do their schoolwork. So Key Stage 4s all the way up to 16, we're there. If they're post-16 and have an EHCP, Educational Healthcare Plan, we will support them all the way through to 25 through the school and the councils. If you do not fall into any of those categories, don't worry, we've got our DIY club. The DIYs run monthly and we also do bespoke courses. And that's for anyone who just wants to save, earn and learn. So learn, earn and save, learning something new so that you can keep your own earnings in your pocket and not pay it out to those really expensive tradespeople. And save it so you can go on a beautiful holiday in Jamaica or somewhere like that. But come to our DIY where you'll learn plumbing and electrical basics, the ones that everyone's frightened of. We will teach you in a safe environment and things that you can do to save money. We do bespoke courses, so we do one-on-ones. So if you don't find what you want on our site, which is www.ceopportunities.co.uk, if you don't find what you want, please do leave us a message. We'll get back to you and we'll make a course that's suited to you. We've done a few of those one-on-ones where people just want a specific job and they've gone away and sent us pictures of beautiful jobs that they've been able to accomplish, centrally in installations, etc. Not the gas side, what they've been able to do. But generally, I think just even if you do not want to do a course, remember the reason that CEO was formed. CEO was formed to support and help those who are underrepresented, who are vulnerable, whose socioeconomic background is not where they want it to be right now. Therefore, sometimes they can't afford to come onto our courses. We try to make our courses very reasonable in cost, but even that can be a struggle. So if you don't want to do a course, but you know someone, a young person, or even an adult that you would like to sponsor, please take that time to contact us and sponsor someone that could come onto our short program. And that way they can do a taster. The DIY is a weekender and it's more of a taster that will help a young person to decide if it's something they want to do long term or just help an adult to learn life skills that will save them money. So that's the key part of CEO, is to help a community. And we ask you as a community to help us by supporting those who are vulnerable or less able to support themselves. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been a genuine pleasure learning more about you and about C and all the good stuff that you're doing. And once again, congratulations on winning the Inspirational Woman of the Industry this year.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you again to Startup Magazine. for the Arsenals Award and recognising so many brilliant industries that we have in this community.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I can't wait to kind of see your growth and the growth journey that you're on.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out Startup Magazine's socials to stay up to date on the latest startups news.